So the Supreme Court has struck down the racist policy of affirmative action today. So today, the Supreme Court decided that affirmative action was in fact a racist practice, like I've been saying for a while now, and like most people with sense has been saying for a while now. You cannot show a preferential treatment to people based off their race. That's like literally the definition of racist. So I wanted to do a reaction to a couple news clips from MSNBC, see what they think about this decision. So let's not waste no time. Let's get into this now. Maybe I'll read an article about it as well. Let's hear what they got to say about this.
What do we know at this point?
Well, that's right. Affirmative action has been blocked both for private and public colleges. This is in the UNC case and in the Harvard case. We thought there may be a split where they might say that it's unconstitutional for public universities taking public money, but perhaps not for private. But they've said in both cases, college admissions cannot consider race as they try to diversify their student bodies. Now, this is overturning a 2003 opinion by then Justice.
So this was affirmative action was in place for 20 years. So 20 years they've been discriminating against people based off their race with college admissions and shit like that. Especially with Asians. I heard Asians have it the worst. Like they get discriminated against the worst because they're overrepresented in college because they do the best in schools and because they work the hardest, so they'll be they'll get in the schools easier.
Opinion by then Justice Sotomayor, who said at that time, we hope in 25 years we won't have to look at race as a consideration in college, but that's just not the makeup of our country right now. Well, it's been 20 years, and these justices have said that the court, according to this opinion today, that they think that race should no longer be a consideration as colleges try to diversify. Going back to oral arguments, we heard then from Chief Justice Roberts saying, look, he basically saw it as being more racist in violation of Title 14 to look at race in considering who should be admitted to college. Harvard tried to argue this is just like trying to get an oboe player on our orchestra. We would look out for oboe players just like we would look at race and trying to diversify our student body. At the time, Chief Justice Roberts said no, because we didn't have a civil war over oboe players and we did over race. This will, of course, have historic impacts going forward as colleges try to diversify their student bodies, looking at other things like geographical.
Like, why is everybody obsessed with diversifying their businesses? They're diversifying their student bodies. Just let in the people that qualify, the first people that come that qualify for this position, the first people that applies for the college that meets the standards or that qualifies for it, let them in. Stop discriminating. Like, it's the whole diversifying thing is so stupid.
Factors, poverty, any adversity that students have overcome, but they can no longer look at other things like geographical factors, poverty, any adversity that students have overcome, but they can no longer look at race. It's something that's already happening in 8 states across the country. For example, in the public education system, the public system in California, they cannot look at race there. A lot of colleges have said it's been increasingly hard to keep their student bodies racially diverse, hard to
So what this woman basically just said is black people are so stupid that without affirmative action, they can't meet the standards for the rest of the population. That's what she just said. She said without affirmative action, they're having a hard time getting black people or minorities in these spaces. That's a bad look for minorities, not the colleges, and not the rule that you can't discriminate against people. Like that's not a good thing for MSNBC views or their narrative they're pushing.
Racially diverse, hard to underestimate how big of a decision this is coming from the Supreme Court today. It may not be surprising given the composition of the court, but it will have long.
Oh my god! Look at the black people on this panel. Oh my god! Look at this dude. Why do they look so? She look like she's about to cry. He looked like he's about to try to jump through the goddamn screen. And he looked like he just looked like he's like dumbfounded by the whole situation. Why are you upset that colleges are no longer allowed to be racist? Like this is the new thing that they're pushing.
The composition of the court, but it will have long and lasting impacts on how colleges around the country diversify their student bodies without looking at race as a factor.
All right, so that was that clip. Now let's look at this one. Maybe I think this is the one like right after that. 'Cause I think these guys are going to talk. Before they talk, I guarantee they're going to be crying racism. Guarantee it.
Charles, your thoughts, though, just on the top line, which is affirmative action no longer constitutional, according to the Supreme Court justices.
Anna, we've been headed to this space for a very long time.
Yep.
And unfortunately, there is a tie-in between the public discourse right now around diversity and everything that we are discussing, the misunderstanding of how race is actually used and discussed, and then a very disingenuous conversation about race in America, all of which has contributed to us being where we are. I share Eddie's feelings
Look at a black girl. Mm-hmm. You tell you that's so right.
Being where we are. I share Eddie's feelings about knowing this was coming, but also being emotional about it now that we are actually hearing those words. And to Julia's point,
God, why are these people so weak? You're emotional about it because colleges can no longer give you a handicap. Like I believe that black people can achieve anything they want to as long as they work hard. These people believe black people are so stupid that they need a damn handicap to get into places that everybody else in the country can get into. Like, why is this making you emotional? Because these people think less of black people. They think black people can't do what the rest of the country can do. They're actually racist. The silent bigotry, I think it's, the silent bigotry of low expectations, something like that. They have so low expectations for black people that they think without this handicap, there's going to be no more black people in universities. And if that's what comes from this, then that's what black people deserve. Work as hard as the rest of the people in the country, and then you'll get into these schools at the same rate. And if schools are discriminating against black people, we'll look at it on a case-by-case basis and determine if that's true or not. It should not be a rule like affirmative action. That's retarded.
Being emotional about it now that we are actually hearing those words. And to Julia's point, what she was just talking about, we have already seen in California, for example, what it does to a student body to remove race from a factor of admissions. It has not worked out well. We have seen fewer and fewer black students in the UC systems because of the removal of race as a factor in terms of being able to identify qualified applicants who can be there.
Explain that, because I think a lot of people think you're either qualified or you're not. Why does race even matter? I think that's what the justices are saying here, right?
Race does matter because in many respects, there are a number of myriad different considerations that come into play when you're talking about the experience of an applicant who is black, who comes from certain areas, who had certain advantages or was void of certain advantages, going into a college application.
It does not matter. What about, it ain't like black people are just the only poor people in this country, the only people with hard times in this country. It should not be race based. It should, if anything, it shouldn't be any kind of handouts, especially based off race. Like that's, or like like handouts or handicaps based off race. It's just stupid. You have more poor people in this country that's white. So are we going to have a poor white rule? No.
or was void of certain advantages going into a college application process versus someone who did not come from that background and did not have these advantages. And it is not, from what people have still, even from 1978 with Bakke, people still misunderstand affirmative action. It has nothing to do with quotas. It has nothing to do with numbers in the sense of hard, fast, and rigid measures. And I have to go back to Dahlia's a piece that Dahlia wrote earlier, where one of the fatal flaws of how we got here is a decision that came, I believe it was Fisher, where they said basically, in 25 years, they put a sell-by date, essentially. And those are Dahlia's words. I want to give her full credit, right, for writing that and basically saying, hey, well, perhaps we can revisit here. As soon as that decision came out, that date began to be marked on the calendar, and people said, well, we can get here at this point.
All right, so that's that. So yeah, tell me what you think. You think this racist policy should have been struck down, or are you in favor of it? Leave your comments below, and if you enjoyed the video, subscribe to the channel. It helps out with the algorithm, and I'll see you in my next video.